Have you ever found yourself trapped in a cycle of frustration, replaying hurtful words or situations over and over in your mind? Do you often feel like the world's opinions and circumstances control your peace? If you've ever felt overwhelmed by your emotions or struggled to stay calm in challenging situations, you're not alone. But what if I told you that the power to break free from this emotional turmoil lies within you? In today's video, we'll explore how to regain control of your emotions and stop letting external factors dictate your peace. I'm going to share valuable insights from Carl Jung that can help you understand how your internal world shapes your reactions and, most importantly, how to shift from being a prisoner of your feelings to becoming the master of them. This isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's about embracing emotional freedom and living a life where you're not swayed by every passing moment or negative opinion. By the end of this video, you'll discover practical steps to regain emotional control, build stronger inner peace, and live with confidence, no matter what life throws your way. If you're ready to stop reacting out of fear and start responding from a place of inner strength, stay tuned. This is the transformation you've been waiting for. If give me an outro for everything above, ask audiences what they have learned so far and ask them to comment on one thing they have learned and will bring to practice in life below this video and add CTA. If you like this video, please leave your comment below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. If the filter through which you view the world is clouded by fear, resentment, or guilt, then the reality you perceive will reflect exactly that. It's not because life is unfair, it's simply because you can only see what is within you. Your emotions, those deep and often hidden forces, shape how you interpret everything around you. But here is the powerful truth that so many people overlook. It's not about avoiding pain or escaping from the difficult emotions that come with life. It's not about shutting yourself off from the world or numbing yourself to everything happening around you. No, it's about transforming the meaning you assign to each experience. It's about reprogramming the way you perceive reality itself and learning to turn every emotion, good or bad, into a tool for growth instead of a burden that keeps you trapped in a cycle of pain and stagnation. The truth is, the reality you experience is not something imposed upon you. It is something that you interpret. Your thoughts, beliefs, and emotional responses color everything you see and experience in the world. And when you fully understand this, when you gain control over how you interpret your circumstances, you will realize that you hold the power to choose how you respond to any situation. In that very moment, you unlock a freedom that no external circumstance can ever take away from you. What I want to share with you today is not abstract theory or some feel-good philosophy. It's real, actionable principles that have been used by countless people, those who have achieved a state of inner peace that does not depend on anyone or anything outside of themselves. You will learn how to transform fear into clarity, how to make negative emotions work in your favor instead of against you, and how to reach a state of unshakable serenity, no matter what life throws your way. What you are about to discover has the power to completely change everything in your life. But, and this is key, it will only work if you are willing to look inside yourself, to deeply question everything you've believed to be true until now. You see, in the end, it's not the events that happen to you that determine your peace. It's how you choose to experience them. When you learn how to shift that process, when you change the way you engage with your emotions, you will find that nothing and no one will ever have the same hold over you again. Can you even imagine what your life would be like if you could remove those invisible glasses that distort your perception of the world? If you could experiencing life without the heavy weight of fear, limiting beliefs, and repressed emotions clouding your vision. It's an incredibly freeing thought, isn't it? The human mind is like an intricate labyrinth, and every thought, every reaction, and every emotion is influenced by deep layers within us that we rarely take the time to explore consciously. Carl Jung, the brilliant psychoanalyst, captured this concept perfectly when he described the psyche as an iceberg. The conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg, what you are aware of. But beneath the surface lies a vast, unseen subconscious, a place where your past experiences, traumas, insecurities, and, most importantly, your projections onto the world reside. What we fail to make conscious will continue to govern our actions, our decisions, and our lives. And all the things we ignore within ourselves don't just disappear, they emerge in our reality, often disguised as obstacles or challenges that feel beyond our control. Take fear, for example. It often infiltrates our lives without us even realizing it. It hides behind self-doubt when you question whether you're good enough to leap something new. It shows up as procrastination when you hold yourself back from pursuing what you truly desire simply because you're afraid of failing. It quietly seeps into your relationships, where you might give more than you should, driven by the fear of rejection or loneliness. But Jung taught us something crucial. Fear is not the enemy. It's a teacher, albeit one that comes disguised in a form we usually don't recognize. It's a signal, a powerful one, pointing you to something deep within that still needs your attention. Sadly, most of us don't listen. Instead of facing our emotions, we fight them. We suppress what we feel, telling ourselves that we shouldn't be sad, that we should never feel anger, and we must always be strong. And that's where the real issue begins. What you resist, as they say, persists. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They linger, building up like a silent storm, becoming a weight that we carry every single day. They whisper to us in the back of our minds, blocking our way forward without us even realizing it. Think about a storm. The wind howls, the rain pours down, and the sky turns dark. You try to fight it, pushing against the wind with all your might, trying to stop the rain, attempting to control the uncontrollable. But the more you struggle, the more exhausted you become. The storm doesn't cease because you resist it. It only passes when you allow it to, when you stop fighting and let it be. This is how emotions work. They are like passing storms. They come and go. But most people remain trapped, caught in the battle to control their feelings, afraid to face what's inside them. Instead of acknowledging their emotions, they bury them under distractions, work, entertainment, relationships that provide only fleeting comfort, avoiding what truly needs to be addressed. But what if, just imagine this, what if instead of fighting your emotions, you simply stopped and observed them? What if, instead of running from your sadness, you sat with it, allowed it to show you what it was trying to teach you? What if, instead of ignoring your fear, you asked yourself what it was revealing about your beliefs or limiting patterns? Every emotion you feel carries with it a hidden message, something important that you need to see. Sadness, for example, often signals that there's something within you that needs to be released, perhaps an attachment that no longer serves you, a hope that went unmet, or a part of yourself that's been held back. Fear, in its essence, is pointing to deeply rooted beliefs that you are not enough, that you don't deserve what you desire, or that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. Anger, often seen as a bad emotion, is a profound reminder that your boundaries are being violated, that something in your life is not honoring your true self. When you begin to view your emotions not as obstacles to be avoided, but as guides meant to lead you to deeper understanding and growth, something shifts within you. And when that shift happens inside, your external world can no longer affect you in the same way. Now, let's take a moment to think about those automatic reactions you have in certain situations. Maybe it's an argument with a loved one, a tense moment at work, or an instance where you feel insecure or attacked. Instead of reacting on impulse, I urge you to pause, take a deep breath, Step back and observe the scene as if you were an outsider, a spectator watching with no attachment. Ask yourself, what part of me is reacting right now? Is it truly the external situation that's causing this? Or is it something deep inside of me that was already there? The power is yours to shift your perspective, to let go of the chains that bind you, and to transform every emotional experience into a tool for your growth. This is the key to real freedom. The answers to these questions have the potential to completely transform your life. When you understand that what happens outside of you can only have power over you, if you allow it, you start to regain control. I can't help but reflect on Jung's brilliant concept of the silent observer, that calm, centered part of your consciousness that is untouched by the whirlwind of emotions or external circumstances. It's that space inside of you that, no matter what is happening around you, remains peaceful. Can you even imagine the freedom that comes from accessing this part of yourself? It's like tapping into a secret reservoir of strength, where nothing and no one can shake you unless you grant them that power. And let me tell you, once you truly understand this truth, a whole new world opens up to you. You begin to see that every time something or someone destabilizes you, it's not because the world is unjust or because people are malicious. It's because there's something inside of you, perhaps a belief, an unresolved emotion, or a fear that still needs your attention and healing. And right there, in that very realization, lies the key to achieving lasting peace. It's not about changing the world around you, it's about changing how you respond to it, how you perceive it. This shift in perception can be the doorway to an unshakable peace that stays with you through every storm. When you truly master this, you realize that storms no longer frighten you. They become temporary disturbances, always offering opportunities for growth, if you choose to see them that way. Take a moment to think about the thoughts you carry around every day. If you dig deep, you may come to realize that many of them aren't even yours to begin with. So many of our beliefs were absorbed during childhood, shaped by others, or by experiences that were beyond our control. And here's the beautiful, empowering truth. You don't have to hold on to those old stories anymore. You have the power to rewrite them. Just imagine for a second what it would feel like if, starting today, you decided to change the narrative of your life. Instead of telling yourself you're not enough, what if you began to believe that you have always been capable? What if the only thing that has ever held you back is the story you've been telling yourself? It's a profound thought, isn't it? Carl Jung taught us something incredibly powerful about the unconscious mind. It doesn't distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. The mind simply responds to the programming we feed it. So, if you start feeding it empowering beliefs that affirm your strength, your worth, your endless potential, your external reality will inevitably start to reflect that shift. Imagine what would happen if you stopped sabotaging yourself with limiting beliefs. What if you chose to believe that you are enough, that you are worthy of everything you desire? The change would be nothing short of transformative. Let's take a real-life example to make this even clearer. Picture someone who has spent their entire life living in constant fear of not being loved. Maybe they grew up learning that love had to be earned, that they needed to please everyone, to sacrifice themselves for validation. Now, as adult, they carry this deep-seated belief that they are never enough, that they must keep proving their worth to avoid rejection. This person is trapped in a cycle of fear, constantly trying to gain approval from others while feeling disconnected from their true self. How do they break this cycle? The first step is acknowledging it. Jung spoke about shadow integration, the process of bringing to light the hidden parts of ourselves. When this person realizes they've been living in fear of rejection, fear of being unworthy, they begin to reclaim their power. They come to understand that their worth is not defined by the approval of others, but by how they perceive and value themselves. And then everything changes. They start setting boundaries. They start saying no without guilt. They begin to prioritize their well-being without the constant fear of abandonment. And here's the amazing part. As they change, the people around them begin to change too. No longer are they sought out only for what they give, but for who they truly are. This, my friend, is when the cycle of people-pleasing and self-sacrifice finally breaks. The healing starts within them, and it ripples outward into every relationship and interaction. Now, think about someone who has always believed that failure is the ultimate humiliation. Every time they try something new and fall short, they punish themselves with self-critical thoughts. They compare themselves to others and feel stuck, believing the world is filled with insurmountable obstacles that they just can't overcome. Can you relate to this feeling of inadequacy? I know I can. It's heartbreaking when we define ourselves by our failures rather than our efforts and growth. But what if they began to see failure in a completely new light, not as something shameful, but as an inevitable part of the journey? What if they embraced failure as a valuable teacher, one that helps them grow stronger and wiser with each misstep? Jung's words resonate deeply here. Life does not happen to you, it happens through you. This person's entire perspective on life would shift. They would no longer see mistakes as a reflection of their inadequacy, but as necessary lessons on the road to success. They would no longer fear falling, because they would understand that each fall brings them closer to their highest potential. Imagine the freedom they would feel, the liberation from the need to be perfect, the courage to try again without the weight of self-judgment. Isn't that what we all deserve? To free ourselves from the burden of our own expectations? What most people don't realize is that every thought we nurture is a seed. And the seeds we choose to plant, whether of fear, doubt, or self-belief, will grow into the trees that shape our lives. If we water the seeds of fear and resentment, they will sprout into an overwhelming forest of negativity. But if we plant seeds of confidence, inner peace, and self-love, the fruit they bear will be nothing less than life-altering. Can you see how this works? It's not an abstract idea. It's real and tangible. You can feel it in every moment, every decision, every thought. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. The next time you catch yourself thinking a limiting thought, don't just accept it blindly. Challenge it. Question it. Ask yourself, does this thought belong to me, or is it just a leftover belief from a time when I didn't know better? When you start doing this, when you begin to question the thoughts that arise in your mind, you'll realize that you've had the power all along. You've always had the power to let go of what no longer serves you. The only reason those thoughts held power over you was because you granted them that power. But the truth is, you don't have to anymore. You can choose a different narrative. You can rewrite your story, and it all starts with taking a deep breath and realizing that you are the author of your own life. Here's the most revealing part of all of this. You don't need the world to change to experience a different reality. All you need to do is to change the way you relate to what happens. Isn't that a powerful thought? The way we interact with the world around us defines the reality we experience. If you approach life as a series of obstacles, failures, and endless tragedies, then, without fail, you will continue to find proof of that belief at every corner. But if you choose to look at life through the lens of opportunity, if you decide that every situation, no matter how challenging, is an opportunity for growth, you'll start to see the world in a completely new light. Suddenly, everything shifts. The world transforms. Your perceptions transform. You can begin to experience life in a way that you may have never thought possible. Jung's wisdom rings in my mind. What you resist persists. Isn't that the truth? The more you fight against life, the more you will encounter exactly what you're trying to avoid. It's like trying to run from a storm, only to find that the more you resist, the harder it rains. If you're filled with fear, struggle, and tension, you will only invite more of the same into your life. But what if, instead of resisting, you learn to flow with life? What if you opened your heart and mind to the possibility that each experience has something valuable to offer, even if it's painful or uncomfortable in the moment? When you choose to release the tension, when you embrace the flow, life suddenly becomes much easier. The weight of resistance falls away, and you find peace. Now, just imagine the incredible power of living this way without the suffocating weight of fear, without the constant worry about failure, because you've learned that failure does not define you. Imagine living without the fear of others' opinions, because you finally realize that the only thing that truly matters is how you view yourself. You stop letting others' perceptions dictate your self-worth. You stop seeking validation from people who may never understand your true value. And what about uncertainty? Imagine facing the unknown without fear, because you trust in your ability to handle whatever life throws your way. You understand that no matter what happens, you have the strength and the wisdom to adapt, learn, and move forward. That, my friends, is true freedom. It's not freedom that depends on circumstances. It's not a freedom that's tied to how things look on the outside, how much money you have, or how many people approve of you. This freedom is an internal one, a freedom that is born within you. When you liberate yourself from the invisible chains your mind has placed upon you, nothing and no one can imprison you again. No circumstance, no setback, and no person has the power to keep you trapped. And in that moment, you'll discover that the peace you've always been searching for was never outside of you. It was always within you, quietly waiting to be recognized. When we avoid facing our shadows, those parts of ourselves we wish to ignore, they manifest in ways we might not even recognize: anxiety, persistent conflicts, patterns that seem to play out over and over. We can live in a cycle of self-sabotage without ever realizing that it's the shadows within us that we're running from. But when we finally choose to look at what we've been avoiding, when we choose to face our fears and pain, we realize that they're not our enemy. They're a part of us, a part that needs to be understood, healed, and integrated. Let's bring this idea to life with something we all can relate to. Think about a fear you've carried for years. It could be the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, or the fear of never being enough. Each time you step outside your comfort zone, that fear rises, whispering in your ear, telling you all the reasons why you shouldn't try, why you're not worthy, why it's better to play it safe. But have you ever stopped to ask where that fear is coming from? Whose voice is that? Maybe it's rooted in something from your childhood, something you learned from a parent, a teacher, or an experience that scarred you. But here's the liberating truth. That voice is not you. It's simply an echo from the past, repeating itself in your mind because it's been given too much power over the years. So, what can you do differently? Instead of fighting against that fear, instead of trying to ignore it or push it away, take a moment to listen. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? What message does it hold for me? Maybe it's showing you that you need to trust in your strength. Maybe it's telling you that it's time to learn to validate your worth, regardless of what others think. Or maybe it's simply encouraging you to face what you want to stop running from the life you deserve. When you choose to lean into your emotions instead of rejecting them, fear loses its grip on you. You stop being a prisoner to your past and become the architect of your present and ultimately your future. Let's apply this in a real scenario. Imagine you're preparing for an important conversation, perhaps with your boss, a colleague, or someone you deeply respect. Before you even speak, you feel anxiety creeping up inside you. Your thoughts flood with doubts, your body tightens, and you're filled with nervous energy. In the past, you might have tried to ignore these feelings, suppress them, or let them control you. But this time, you do something different. You pause. You take a deep breath. You acknowledge the fear and the anxiety without letting them take over. You ask yourself, what part of me is feeling this? What is the story I'm telling myself right now? In that moment, you realize that the fear you're experiencing isn't coming from the current situation. It's an old pattern, an echo of something that happened in the past, a belief that you're not good enough or that you won't be accepted. Instead of reacting from insecurity, you respond from a place of clarity. You speak with confidence, knowing that your worth is not defined by this conversation, but by who you are at your core. You become present. You become aware. You become empowered. This is how transformation begins. When you stop fighting yourself, when you embrace all parts of you, even the uncomfortable emotions, you step into a life that, imagine waking up one morning feeling utterly drained, not because you didn't get enough sleep, but because something inside you feels heavy. It's a weight that you can't shake off, a deep emotional burden that refuses to be ignored. Maybe it's the words of someone you care about that hit too hard, the kind of words that continue to echo in your mind long after they've been spoken. Or perhaps it's a mistake you made that you simply can't forgive yourself for, a regret that seems to rear its head every time you think you've moved past it. You find yourself asking, why do other people's opinions continue to affect me so much? Why do I keep replaying moments in my head that I should have already moved on from? Here's the truth. The answer isn't out there. It's not about what others die or what they said. It's about how you choose to interpret their words. It's about the story you've been telling yourself, the narrative you created around an event, and the meaning you assign to it. This is where many of us get stuck. We mistakenly believe that our suffering comes from the outside world circumstances, other people's actions, the hand we were dealt. But Carl Jung made it clear, everything that disturbs you in the external world is a reflection of something within you that has yet to heal. Let that sink in for a moment. It's not the criticism that hurts. It's the part of you that still doubts your worth. It's not the indifference from others that frustrates you. It's your unmet need for validation that keeps tugging at you, demanding attention. Until you face what's affecting you, until you uncover and address the root of it, you'll remain trapped in an endless loop, repeating the same painful cycles. But what if you chose to do something different? Picture this. Instead of letting your emotions drive you, instead of reacting immediately, when something triggers you, you take a step back. You pause. You breathe. You ask yourself, why does this affect me so much? What part of me is reacting this way? In that moment, you begin to uncover a powerful truth. The problem was never the other person or the situation itself. The real issue was the story you told yourself about it. For example, perhaps the fear of rejection you feel today didn't start today. It didn't start with this conversation or this particular experience. It began years ago when you first learned to tie your sense of self-worth to being accepted by others. That nagging guilt that lingers, it's not even truly yours. It's a habit you formed because somewhere along the way, you began to believe that making mistakes meant you weren't good enough. But here's where you can take your power back. Instead of allowing your emotions to consume you, ask yourself, if this emotion were a message, what would it be telling me? Maybe it's urging you to trust yourself more, to stop seeking approval from others and begin giving it to yourself. Perhaps it's reminding you that you need to stop living by other people's expectations and start forging your path. The key isn't the emotion you feel, it's what you choose to do with it. Instead of feeding that emotion with more negative, repetitive thoughts, you take action from a place of awareness and consciousness. Now, imagine another scenario. You're in the middle of a heated argument with someone you care about. Emotions are running high, voices are raised, and everything feels like it's spiraling. In the past, you would have fallen into the same old pattern, getting defensive, letting your anger take over. But this time, you pause. You remember something that Jung once said about the shadow self. What irritates us most in others is a reflection of something we haven't yet integrated within ourselves. Rather than letting anger drive you, you take a moment to ask yourself, what part of me is reacting to this? Is this person making me feel this way? Or is there something deeper at play here? In that instant, instead of being a slave to your emotions, you choose to take control of them. You don't suppress what you feel, but you consciously choose how you respond. This small but powerful shift in perspective can completely change your life. You stop feeling like a helpless victim of your circumstances. Instead, you begin to see every emotional reaction, every conflict, and every challenge as an opportunity to understand yourself better. You no longer react from a place of fear or insecurity. You begin to respond from a place of clarity, awareness, and self-understanding, realizing that no external situation can truly affect you unless you allow it. And when you reach this point, when you start responding consciously, instead of reacting impulsively, you'll make a profound discovery. The problems that once seemed overwhelming begin to lose their power, not because the world has changed, but because your perception of it has. You no longer see yourself as a victim of your circumstances, but as a conscious creator of your experience. This is where the concept of emotional responsibility comes in. Jung's words resonate deeply here. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Every emotion, every thought, and very reaction is an opportunity for you to take control of your story. It's not about denying your feelings, but about asking yourself, how can I transform this into something that strengthens me? Now, think about a moment when you were hurt by someone. Perhaps they ignored you when you wanted their attention, or maybe they said something that stung deeply. Instead of getting lost in the narrative of how wronged you were, try this. Close your eyes and visualize that person not as your enemy, but as a teacher, someone who has shown up in your life to reveal something about yourself. Ask yourself, what part of me created this experience? How can I use this to grow stronger? As you do this, something profound begins to dawn on you. The lesson isn't about the other person at all, it's about you. You begin to see that you don't need external validation to feel worthy. You don't need anyone to change for you to find peace. Everything you've been searching for outside has always been inside you. This is the moment when you reclaim your power. When you stop blaming others for how you feel, you begin to see every emotion as a message, a chance to evolve, to grow, and to gain insight into yourself. You start to realize that peace isn't something you find, it's something you cultivate. The only person who has the authority to define who you are and how you feel is you. And in that moment, the world loses its hold on you because, for the first time, you're in control. Every small conscious decision you make is like rewriting the code in your mind. Instead of living by limiting beliefs, you begin to replace them with empowering ones that set you free. But here's where many people get stuck. They want to change, but they're still holding on to the same stories about themselves. They continue to say things like, I'm just a sensitive person. I am always affected by what others say. I can't control my emotions. Do you see how these statements become your identity? As long as you continue to define yourself this way, you'll stay trapped in the same cycle. But what if, every time you think, I'm too emotional, you paused and asked, is this true? Or is it just a story I've repeated so many times that I've come to believe it? This is the real work, the work of changing your internal narrative. It's not about repeating empty affirmations. It's about creating new experiences that reinforce real transformation. Jung emphasized the importance of integration, of bringing into the light what has always remained hidden. Instead of running from your pain, you sit with it. You observe it, and instead of rejecting it, you accept it not as your fate, but as part of your story. Because in the end, the words people say can only hurt you if a part of you believes they might be true. If someone tells you you'll never succeed, those words will only have power over you if you fear that they might reflect a truth about yourself. But once you've done the inner work, once you've built your confidence, your self-worth, those words become nothing more than background noise, powerless and weightless. But here lies the most profound question of all. How do you reach a point where nothing can affect you? It's not about repressing your emotions or convincing yourself that everything is fine when it's not. That only creates a fragile shield, a facade that shatters the moment real life touches it. True power lies in the ability to feel everything deeply without letting any emotion control you. Carl Jung's wisdom sheds light on this process when he said that true freedom comes when you stop identifying with every fleeting thought or passing emotion. When you learn to observe your feelings from a place of detachment, without allowing them to define who you are, you unlock a new level of self-awareness. It is in this detachment that you find your greatest strength. Let me help you grasp this concept more clearly. Let's consider an example. Maybe, like many of us, you felt the frustration of giving too much to others, feeling used, feeling as though your kindness is taken for granted. Perhaps you've often felt that people take advantage of your generosity, that you give and give, but never truly receive in return. In the past, this would have made you feel helpless, trapped in a cycle of self-sacrifice. You might have felt bitter, as if the world was somehow stacking the deck against you. But here's the turning point. Instead of remaining in that victim's role, you decide to do something radically different. You stop blaming others. You begin asking yourself, where am I failing to establish boundaries? Why do I struggle to say no? You start to realize that the true issue isn't others, be at your failure to protect your energy. You begin setting boundaries, not from a place of anger, but from a deep sense of self-respect. You understand that when you respect yourself, others will follow suit. When you stop fearing that saying no will cause people to leave, you gain something far more valuable, your inner peace. This moment of realization is where many people falter. They continue to wait for the world to change first. They expect people to be kinder, they wish for better circumstances, and they want life to be gentler. But real change always starts from within. When you begin to change, the whole world around you shifts. It's like tuning a radio to a new frequency. When you stop broadcasting fear, insecurity, or frustration, you start to attract experiences that resonate with the new energy you've cultivated. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if nothing, and no one could shake your inner balance. If every time someone tried to drag you into conflict, you remained unshaken, standing firm in your calm. Picture a situation where you no longer react impulsively, but instead observe the situation with calm detachment. Every time a difficult moment arises, instead of losing your temper or letting your emotions take over, you respond from a place of peace. You see emotions as temporary visitors, waves that pass by, never meant to stay and drown you. The peace you envision is not an impossible dream. It is a tangible reality, but only if you commit to the process. Only if you decide to stop giving power to the external factors that have been controlling you for so long. Only if you build an internal fortress, one that nothing and no one can break. When you do this, when you truly integrate this change, something incredible happens. The world no longer feels like a hostile place. People can no longer hurt you the way they once did. Situations that once triggered anxiety no longer grip your heart because you're no longer seeing them through the lens of fear. You are finally in control. When you taste this freedom, you realize that you will never again allow anyone or anything to take your peace away. When you permit yourself to prioritize your well-being, without guilt, everything in your life begins to realign. Suddenly, the external noise starts to fade, and the true harmony of your inner world takes center stage. Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, free from the conditioning of others. This journey begins with the courage to listen to yourself, to turn inward in a world that constantly tells you what you should feel, think, or do. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you suppressed your desires, your needs, or your feelings because you were afraid of disappointing someone else? How many times did you ignore your heart because you were told that feeling deeply was a sign of weakness? How often did you wear a mask pretending to be something you're not, just to fit in with the expectations of others? Every time you did this, you gave more power to the external world over your inner peace. The problem isn't that the world tries to influence you. That's always going to happen. The real issue is that you allowed the world's influence to dictate who you are. This is where the practice of inner silence becomes not just important, but essential. Jung understood this concept deeply. The mind is constantly filled with noise and internal dialogue that we rarely take the time to question. But imagine this. What would happen if you took just a few minutes each day to simply be with yourself, without distractions? No phone, no emails, no social media, and no pressure to do anything. Just you, alone with your thoughts. In those moments of stillness, you begin to notice things you've been missing, what you truly feel, what you need to change, and what your intuition has been trying to tell you all along. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone says something hurtful to you. In the past, you would have reacted instantly, as if their words were daggers piercing your heart. But now, instead of letting that comment dictate your emotional state, you take a deep breath and ask yourself, do I need to take this personally? Or does this say more about them than it does about me? In that moment, you experience something new, detachment. Not because you don't care, but because you understand that what others say or do has no power to define you. This level of clarity isn't a quick fix. It's a practice. It's a commitment to return again and again to the role of observer rather than participant in every emotional storm. And here's the most beautiful thing. When you begin to live this way, the external world changes. Situations that once felt unbearable lose their emotional charge. People who used to trigger you no longer hold that power over you. And most importantly, you begin to feel lighter, like a weight you didn't even know you were carrying has been lifted. But here's the important caveat. This process doesn't mean you will never feel pain, frustration, or sadness again. The difference is this: you won't get stuck in those emotions. You'll learn to see them as temporary visitors in the vast ocean of your consciousness, waves that come and go. Instead of fighting the current, you simply allow it to pass, trusting that, on the other side of the storm, calm will always return. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want you to take a moment and reflect on what you've learned today. Think about the power of observation, the importance of self-awareness, and how your emotional freedom truly lies within your ability to detach from external circumstances. How does this shift in perspective feel to you? What's one thing you've learned from this video that you're committed to bringing into your life? Maybe it's about setting better boundaries, or perhaps it's learning to respond from a place of calm rather than reacting impulsively. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below and share with us the one practice you're going to focus on moving forward. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave your thoughts in the comments section, hit that like button, and don't forget to share and subscribe to our channel for more content that will inspire you to live a more empowered life. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.